Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Magnolia Shine podcast. We're here on a Wednesday, folks. We're diving into some college football right now. And listen, it's here. College football's in full swing. Blake, man, we're about to dive in deep.
Yeah, no. I called this one. We called, maybe we should be doing a little bit more college on Wednesdays. Just change it up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And folks, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, let us know what you're interested in us covering. We're covering some college football here today. We're going to start off with the big game of this week, especially for us here in Mississippi. Ole Miss taking on Arkansas. They're going to host Arkansas, their first SEC home game. Ole Miss coming off that win over Kentucky on the road. Had a little bit of a shaky start, but they got back into the game and looked pretty good there at the end to beat Kentucky. Now they host Arkansas. Blake, what you thinking about this game?
Yeah, Ole Miss is favored by about the same. Pretty close. They're favored by about 10 points here over Arkansas. I guess you couldn't ask for a better start to your conference play than getting Arkansas and Kentucky. Now, that doesn't mean that it's an automatic win by any means. Any Ole Miss fan knows when they play Arkansas, some wacky stuff can happen. Fourth in a billion could happen. And, these night games can be a little tough sometimes. And the environment's going to be great in Oxford. I'm sure Arkansas is going to be ready. So, as much as it's a good matchup for them in the sense that they should win the game, this is going to be, an SEC game. So there's going to be some tough parts about it. If Ole Miss plays a B or better game, they're going to win this game. Now, by how much? They may not cover the spread like against Kentucky where they didn't start out well. But I think as long as they play to who they are, they should win this game.
Yeah, and I take Ole Miss to win this game as well. I think with the quarterback, Austin Simmons for Ole Miss, I think that slow start he had against Kentucky, it wasn't necessarily a slow start. It was like a disastrous start. Throwing those two interceptions, he got hurried up, and I do think he will be a lot better in this game. Just because I think that experience will really help him. I think he'll be a lot better in this game. I think he'll start off well. I think Ole Miss is going to beat Arkansas. And I actually think that Ole Miss is not only going to cover the spread, I think they're going to advance it by more. I think they're going to blow Arkansas out.
So kind of like what they did last year. Maybe not the light show of all the passing, the 5 touchdowns, but forgetting the
Yeah.
wide receiver's name. I think it was Caden Lee. And I guess you're just expecting that like fire show from the Ole Miss offense. Can I say something really interesting here?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
understand that Austin Simmons has been now. This is his third season at Ole Miss, and he's been there now, and he graduates after two years. But people forget he's 19 years old.
Yeah,
He
no,
is
they
the
do.
age of some incoming freshmen. He is the same age as some of them. And so while the experience of being on the sideline and the experience of being in the Oxford Lane Kiffin system, we also have to just temper a little bit that he's 19 years old. He comes in the same class as Arch Manning, and I'm going to drop this video on my TikTok later today if you want to see more of a
Yep.
rant of this. He comes in the same class as Arch Manning. Arch Manning's a year and a half older than he is. A
Yeah.
year and a half. Arch Manning's 21 years old. His birthday's in April, and Austin Simmons is 19, and he's going to turn 20 in November. So he's a year and a half older than he is, and they're in the same class. So my argument is there's a world where in a year and a half, why wouldn't Austin Simmons be better than what Arch Manning is right now? And could he be better long term?
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. And then, Arch Manning's a whole nother discussion. You're talking about a player that I think is a good player, but man, you're talking about the hype train came in real hard for him.
Not his
Um,
fault, though. It's not his fault.
Not at all. That's the thing. It's not his fault at all. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but man, it's a kind of a tough position to be put in actually. But that's a whole nother subject. But this Ole Miss and Arkansas game, listen, just like you said, Ole Miss and Arkansas is always crazy. And if you think about 10 years ago, Arkansas and Ole Miss might have been one of the craziest. That 53-52 overtime game in Oxford. I just don't expect it to be that close this year because because I picked Kentucky last week, and the reason was because of some of the changes that Ole Miss has with the new quarterback and everything. Now, those, you know, the growing pains that Ole Miss had, we saw it against Kentucky, but they overcame it and won the game. I just don't think we're going to see those problems against Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to win games that you don't play well, right? I mean, that's how you
Yeah,
get to 10-2. That's how you make the college football playoff.
yeah,
Because the reality is Ohio State, to me, in my opinion, it is Ohio State and everybody else with how good these teams are. I just watch Ohio State and I'm just so impressed. Ohio State is
yeah,
going to have 2 or 3 games this year where they don't play well. They just nothing's working. It's sloppy. And then they're going to find a way to win that game. And that's what's going to make Ohio State the number one team in the country. But for teams that are not in that Ohio State realm of play, which is Ole Miss trying to make the college football playoff, and I think if they make it, they're most likely going to be that 10, 11, 12 seed, right? I don't think they're going to be number 5. Maybe, but I don't think they're going to be that, winning the SEC or, being the second team and playing the SEC championship game. So they need to get into that 10, 11, 12 spot, which means that they're probably going to have to go 10-2. They're going to lose 2 games. Let's say they play bad in 5 of them. They got to go 3-2 in those games they play bad. Well, if you think Kentucky was one of those games and that's not their normal play, well, then they're 1-0 in games they've played bad. Does that make sense? That
yeah, yeah.
math equation of, unless that's who they are. Because if we see the rest of the season and they play the same way they played against Kentucky, they play against Arkansas, then that just might be who they are. In which case, I don't see where 10 wins are. Now, I do think they're going to get there, but we got to, that's why the early season is interesting, because what is real and what is bad play? What is early season struggles of an offense, because the defense is always better early in the season than the offense is going to be, because its offense is more timing and defense is just more reactionary and scheming. Who are they? And I guess you learn a lot from this game. Even though they're a 10-point favorite, you learn a lot.
Yeah, no, I think you do. So this should be interesting. I've got Ole Miss. I think we both have Ole Miss winning this game over Arkansas. Looking at Mississippi State, Mississippi State coming off obviously a big win over Arizona State. This week they've got Alcorn. You're talking about Alcorn not looking at a very good season this year. It does not seem. And even if they were having a good season, they're playing Mississippi State. They're going to Starkville to play the Bulldogs. Obviously, Mississippi State is a severe favorite, and definitely going to win this game just off of what any kind of prior knowledge we could possibly have. But for Mississippi State, going into this game, you come off of a big win. How do you stay tight? You got to stay tight here. That's the important part about these kind of games that they're going to have these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, obviously they lost 2 players for the year.
Yeah, that was bad, man.
Defensive. Yeah, that's tough. But here's the thing: they're going to win this game by 40. So the question is, to me, it's not even a question. It's the most exciting thing about a game where a team's going to blow out the other team is, what we're finally going to see this week?
You see Kamario Taylor, probably.
There you go. So Blake Shapen's going to come out there. He's going to ball out because he's playing a defense that just can't stop them. They're going to go into halftime. They're going to be up 35-0, 42-7. They're going to be up a bunch. And we're going to see almost a quarter and a half where Kamario Taylor is running a real offense. Now, he's going to be with the 2s. It's not going to be with the 1s, right? Because that's why, wide receivers are going to be off the field by that point. So he's going to be running with the second team. He's going to be running with the second team offense. Maybe they give him the first team offense for maybe 1 series in the second half just to see it kind of go. That's the most exciting part of this game. My guess is by the end of it, they're probably going to end up redshirting him. Whether I think he's the best quarterback or not the point. They're going to probably end up redshirting him this year. So this is going to be one of the 3-4 games he can play. And this is where we're going to get to really see maybe where some of the future is. Again, we all need to temper it back, because you know who the most popular player on any given football team tends to be?
It tends to be the backup quarterback if they're not playing well, for sure.
Right. If a quarterback. Yeah. So the funny part is they're going against Alcorn State, and all of a sudden Kamario Taylor goes out there, throws 2 touchdowns and 150 yards and a half, and Blake Shapen plays bad, against Tennessee. Guess what all the fans are going to be calling for?
They're going to be calling for Kamario. They're going to want to see him.
Right. But I think that's the most exciting part of this game, right? Because the score is not going to be exciting. The matchup is not that exciting other than it's an in-state game. And, I love in-state games. And I wish Ole Miss would play Jackson State, Mississippi State play Jackson State, Alcorn go to Ole Miss, which I think they're doing, and then Southern Miss. But I love this mix and match. I love it. But the reality is this is not going to be a football game that we're used to seeing. This is a 7A school playing a 1A school, and it's just not going to be there. The exciting part is to watch Kamario Taylor.
Yes, and the thing about Kamario Taylor is that I can tell that he has good energy and a good infectious energy with the team. I was watching the game against Arizona State and I could see him getting Blake Shapen ready. I could see him
Yeah.
firing Blake Shapen up. And listen, right before that final drive, and listen, the final drive was there and it was good. You could tell that his energy's good even while he's waiting on his opportunity. And so, listen, I think he's going to be really successful. And as a Mississippi State fan, I hope that we can keep him because that's the big question too. Is with the transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, you never know. And and Blake, how much do you think is that a part of the Mississippi State strategy not to show him off too much? Because that's another thing too, is that it's the Wild West out there, man. You don't think that's
No, you
part of the
can't be.
strategy?
Not at all. I think that I think that's a loser mentality if that is the strategy.
Oh no, I would agree that it's a loser mentality, but I'm questioning whether it is the strategy.
No, no, absolutely not. No, 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 no. You need to worry about your team that season and winning the games that are in front of you.
Yeah,
And if you're worried about losing players, then you're really not that type of program yet. Right?
yeah,
Because Ole Miss is going to lose a couple players. Alabama might lose a player. LSU might lose it. Right? But if you're worried about losing mass exodus of players, 12 to 15 players,
mm,
and let's say 8 of them being good players, then your program's not there yet, and maybe you're further away. So if you're Mississippi State and that happens to you again, like it kind of did last year, you got to be reevaluating. Like, are we putting in enough NIL money? uh, who are our recruiters, right? Because that shouldn't be happening year in and year out. Mississippi State
yeah,
might lose a really good player to the portal. I get it. That's going to happen to a lot of teams. Uh, but it can't happen in mass exodus like it did last year. And no, I don't think that can be a fear, because if you really believe in this kid, you'll pay the price to keep him, or do the
yeah,
recruiting things that you need to do to keep him in house. Van Buren leaves. They obviously felt that they one couldn't keep him, didn't have enough to keep him, and maybe didn't want to keep him. I mean, there is that part of it.
yeah, for sure. The thing is that Mississippi State last year they started build like I saw that offense building over the course of the season. They're able to put up points on big time opponents. They were losing by a lot because the defense wasn't able to stop anybody, but they were putting up a good amount of points against Georgia and Texas, even getting into the 20s and sometimes even the 30s. And they had they had Michael Van Buren as quarterback, and then you lose them. To me, I was like, that you just built something and then it just crashed away. Well, now they bring back Blake Shapen, who was injured during the season last year, so they kind of were able to keep some of what they had going on last year, even though he was hurt for most of the season. You just don't want that to happen again. And so, what I'm wondering is if that is a part of the strategy. I don't agree with it, but that was what I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't think that can even be a thought in your mind, right? Like, I don't even think that can be something. Now, we talk about it because we're media members and we like to talk about these
Yeah,
things. But as a head coach, you can't even that can't even cross your mind. What if we lose this guy at the end of the year? Again, that's loser
it
mentality.
can't.
I don't think Jeff Lebby's thinking that way, and I hope he's not thinking that way, because again, that is not a mentality that you can be long term successful doing. You can't hide players, because players leave because they're not playing. Because if you're at
True.
practice, right? If you're at practice and you're the best wide receiver and you're a freshman and you're like, man, I'm kicking this dude's butt who's a junior, and they play the junior instead, that wide receiver knows. He knows that he is not playing because of some other motive that has nothing to do with us being a winning team. So
Yeah.
the reality is Jeff Levy does not believe that Kamario Taylor at this very moment gives them a better opportunity to win the next football game than Blake Shapen.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I believe that is
right.
what he thinks. Yes.
That's what he thinks. He's not going to say that, but that's what he thinks. Now, I can disagree, but the reality is I'm not at practice every day. Jeff Lebby is the head coach. He knows more football than I'll ever know in my life. So if he says that Blake Shapen is the best quarterback for today, then he's the best quarterback for today. And the moment that Blake Shapen isn't the best quarterback option for them, if Jeff Lebby does not then go to what he thinks is the best, whether it's somebody else other than Kamario Taylor, then that's how you lose a team. That's how you lose a team believing that you're the right coach, is when you're not playing the guys that you think are the best to give you the best chance to win. And you've heard about that stuff in the NFL when teams are playing quarterbacks and they see the young quarterback in practice kicking that veteran's butt. You got to play him then and there.
Yeah, no, and I would definitely agree with you there. Um, but yeah, so Mississippi State Alcorn is on Saturday as well. Southern Miss going to take on Appalachian State. This is going to be a big game for Southern Miss. Another home game. Listen, they're starting the season off with all home games. This is their third straight home game, and now you're taking on a team. I do believe that this is a conference opponent now. We're starting some conference play for Southern Miss in the Sun Belt, and Appalachian State is 2-0 on the season. I didn't see who they played against, but Southern Miss's losses to Mississippi State, so Southern Miss really not in bad position. They won a game that they were supposed to win. They lost a game they were supposed to lose, so we don't really know that much about Southern Miss quite yet. But this is a big game for them. What you thinking about those Golden Eagles this week?
First off, the most important thing for Southern Miss, and Charles Huff brought this point up, this should arguably be the game that Southern Miss fans show up the most for. Isn't that kind of interesting? Right?
It
You would
should
think
be,
Mississippi State,
but I
Jackson
don't know.
State, in-state battle. But what's the most important game they've played so far? It's going to be this one.
It's going to be this one for sure.
It's going to be this one. They're a 1.5-point favorite, which means that they'd probably
Wow,
be an
really?
underdog. Yeah. They'd actually be an underdog on neutral site, right? Because they played at App State. They'd probably be like a 4.5-point underdog the way that it works. So they'd probably be, but they're giving them the home field advantage at least a little bit. And Charles Huff said he wants people to pack it out. This is a conference game. This is the game. This is what you play for as Southern Miss. The out-of-conference schedule
Yeah.
is important because it builds your resume, it gets you better, and it shows you where you are. But at the end of the day, these are the games that are the most important. These are the games that are going to keep or lose jobs. These are going to be where the fan base
Yeah.
believes in a coach or they don't believe in a coach. And so for them, I would think the fans need to show out for this one. This is truly, in my opinion, this is the unofficial first game of Charles Huff's career.
Okay.
This is his first game.
Yeah, no, 100%, because USM played Mississippi State. Listen, putting up 17 points, making a 34-17 game, satisfactory performance for the Golden Eagles, even though their offense kind of started to look pretty bad in that second half. But satisfactory performance. Jackson State, they took care of business. They win 38-20. Not super impressive, but they take care of business. This is the one that matters here against Appalachian State. Listen, I'm pulling for USM. I don't think they're going to pull this one out. I think they're going to lose their first conference game. I got Appalachian State winning this game on the road against Southern Miss. I just don't think the Golden Eagles are going to pull this first conference game out.
Well, here's the thing. Vegas is and gambling sites are really good at this thing. Like they're really good at putting these lines. They don't lose money, they win money, right? Yeah, that's how this goes. So
Yeah.
when they say this is almost a toss-up, well, this is a 50-50 game for Southern Miss when it comes to what the odds predictors are predicting. The smartest people at predicting these things, right? I mean, that's how they make the money. So if this is a 50-50 game, maybe 51 Southern Miss, 49 App State, according to the betting odds, like you said, like this is the game. This is the game. This is the early season game where Southern Miss proves what they are. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be this for the rest of the season, but it's a tone setter. Sometimes winning this game can set the tone, and you win a game down the road because you set the tone correctly. They go and they lose this game by 2 touchdowns. I mean, I don't want to say it's not going to derail the season by any means. Southern Miss is still better this year than they were last year, but it just puts a hamper on all the buzz. But you win this game, even by a late field goal, and you win it. Whoa, we win by barely, even though, maybe it wasn't perfect, but we win. All of a sudden, it's okay. Where can we really be in this conference? Where can we really be? And that's where the whole vibes on a 50-50 game, it shouldn't be that way, but that's how we react nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a big game for Southern Miss. Big game, taking on Appalachian State at home. That will be on Saturday as well. Now, Blake, are you releasing your picks later on, or are you picking these games here today?
I mean, I could pick the games today. I mean, I have Ole Miss. Yeah, I have Ole Miss winning, I have State winning, and then I have App State winning as well.
You have App State winning as well. Okay, I knew what you had for the first two. Okay, all right. So Tuskegee taking on Jackson State. So Jackson State going to host Tuskegee. Um, I believe this is a non-conference game. I don't think Tuskegee's
Yes,
in the
yes,
SWAC.
yes, 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 yes.
It's obviously another HBCU, and it's in Alabama. They're 2-0. Jackson State 1-1 with their loss to Southern Miss just last week. And so Jackson State hosting this one. What you thinking, Blake, about this one? I know Jackson State. I know their quarterback was a little banged up during that Southern Miss game. Have you gotten any? Do you know any updates about him on his status? Is he good for this season? Is he good to continue?
Uh,
Do you know?
No, no, I'll have to check it, but it doesn't really matter who starts at quarterback for JSU because at the end of the day, they're going to run the ball and play great defense. Jacoby and Morgan obviously is the best quarterback they have on the roster,
Yeah,
but he was banged up. He was banged up last year. He lives banged up because he's a tough runner. He's a tough dude. He lives
for
banged
sure.
up, and but no, I think Jack State should win this game thoroughly. Tuskegee beat him, I believe, the last time they played. But that was a completely different Jackson State team and the level that they're at. No, Jack State should win this game by 2 touchdowns. They should control this game.
Yeah, and I agree. I got Jackson State winning this game as well. Of course, thing with the Tigers is that, man, last week they were playing Southern Miss, and I picked Jackson State to beat Southern Miss, which was a wild pick. However, late in the first half, it was a good game, 17-10, and Jackson State was making a drive. They're in Southern Miss territory. I know their backup quarterback, I don't remember his name, came in through an interception on the one play that he was playing, and he got pulled, never played again. I know that had to be tough for him, but just think about that. I felt like that was a huge play in the game because if they would have been able to keep that drive going, they got in the end zone and they're tied at 17 at halftime. You can make an argument that could be a different ball game.
No, absolutely. I think we end up generally with a similar score, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it ended any small chance Jackson State had for sure.
Yeah, so Jackson State Tuskegee on Saturday, and we both have Jackson State winning that ball game. Mississippi Valley taking on Southeastern Louisiana. Valley, you know, you hope that they're able to move their way back into some relevance there. I do think their team might be doing a little bit better than last year, just with that first game's competitiveness. Second game, of course, they played Tarleton State. Tarleton State's a pretty good team in FCS, though, aren't they? Because they beat Army. So.
Yeah, they beat Army. Yeah, right.
So it seems like they're pretty good. So I don't know how much you could take from that, but I don't really know a whole lot about Southeastern Louisiana, so it's hard for me to say. But I would think that Southeastern Louisiana would probably win this game. I know they're a sizable school.
That's what's going to happen.
Okay. So those are the games in Mississippi college football. And listen, we're going to talk a little bit about our Heisman hopefuls and the Heisman watch. So now we're expanding across the nation for college football here. And listen, some of these quarterbacks that are on this list, we've seen some stuff from them. We're still about to enter into week 3. We've only seen a couple of weeks of these players. Blake, what you thinking about these hopefuls? I got a few of them written down here, but headlined by Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. That's my pick at this moment. He had a really good first week against Clemson. Against Louisiana Tech, I mean, LSU kind of struggled offensively, winning that one 23-7. But I don't know what you could take from that, really. I mean, they beat Clemson on the road. That was huge.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly who I would pick because I'm actually a voter, so I can't go down that route. But I can tell you
hold
some of the
hold
guys
on,
that have
Blake. Hold on, Blake. Pause here. You're a voter for the Heisman?
I have been, yeah.
Oh wow! How many voters do they have?
Oh man, 1,000.
That's still pretty incredible. I mean, it's across the nation. Wow, that's pretty cool, man. So,
Yeah. So
okay.
no, some guys that have really impressed me. Garrett Nussmeier's obviously really impressed me. Carson Beck. It seems like a lot of the quarterbacks this year. Last year finally there wasn't a quarterback that was picked, and it was kind of nice to have a non-quarterback selected. Especially the top two. It was Genty and Travis Hunter that ended up being the top two. So it wasn't even a And then Shador was third. He was fourth. Cam Ward was third, I believe, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's some guys that are interesting. Like I said, Carson Beck, Nussmeier. Uh, I I don't see a world where a non-quarterback. I'm trying to think. It's just so early in the season. Arch Manning was
Jeremiah
obviously the.
Jeremiah Smith is the only guy that you would think could make a push, but he's a wide receiver. They don't really usually win.
Yeah, I mean
Heisman.
Devontae Smith won at Alabama, but that was 20 touchdowns, 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
That was a really big season, and I guess they are number. If they end up number one, which I think they could, he has a shot. I'm trying to think of other SEC guys. Right now I haven't really seen. I really liked Clay Klubnik before the season, but he hasn't
Oh
looked
yeah.
good. Arch Manning was the odds favorite prior to the season, and that's
I,
doesn't seem
so
like that's going to be a case anymore.
now I've been hearing a lot about John Mateer at Oklahoma, and I know that they've had a good start to the season. So I've heard some stuff about him on his ability to maybe compete for Heisman. We're so early in the season. We're going to have to see some of these big games before we really make some solid picks. But hey folks, this is the reason why you got to listen to the Magnolia Shine podcast, man. We got a Heisman voter right here in Blake Levine. So listen, these are the opinions that matter right here. All right, so you got to listen in. So hit that subscribe button. I've also heard a lot about Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina. And I know he's a good player, and South Carolina is pretty competitive. And listen, they made a push for the playoff last year. There was an argument for them getting that 12th spot in the playoff last year.
Yeah, there was definitely an argument. Although I think when Ole Miss beats them 27-3, I found it kind of funny. I guess that's why it's a whole resume and it's not head to head. That's just not how
Yeah,
they do have ever done the rankings. Head to head is if it's a real tie, but it's hard to make a case that it's a real tie at any given time.
yeah,
Lenore
that's right.
Sellers for sure has to be up there. I would put him over the guy at Oklahoma for sure for net right now, but. I think that South Carolina's got to be one of the sneakiest teams. They're definitely a fan favorite right now, South Carolina. There's a lot of people picking them to do some damage. I'm not fully sold yet, and I just want to see a little bit more. But at the same time, I mean, the betting odds like them, the fans like them. There seems to be a lot of buzz with Lenore Sellers being arguably the best quarterback in the country, maybe behind Nussmeier and Carson Beck. So yeah, I mean, I could see that, but does South Carolina? I mean, you got to have 10 wins to win a Heisman, in my opinion, unless you do what Travis Hunter did and you just had one of those seasons that were just for the ages. And they did win 9 games. I mean, it's not like they didn't win a bunch of games and you played both sides. Heisman winners are going to tend to come from teams that got to win double-digit games.
They did. However, the last two Heisman's didn't win 10 games because Jaden Daniels, they didn't win 10 games either.
They were 9 though. It was 9 though, right?
It was
I mean,
9. It was
okay.
9. We're close. We're very close, but I mean,
okay. So you got to win 9 games. So you got to win 9 games. You got to win 9 games.
Then again, that's Jaden Daniels and Travis Hunter. I mean, listen, those guys are extraordinary. Now, I'll say this though, man. I thought Ashton Genty should have won last year for sure.
That's who I voted for.
Okay, yeah, because Genty was I total and listen, I'm a Raiders fan. I'm so happy he's on the Raiders, man. Oh man, Ashton Genty, for sure. Anyway, so moving on from the Heisman, talk a little bit, man. Listen, talk about a little bit about some of these big games that are coming up this week, and then there's the big debate that's been going on the last few years. The last 2 seasons, the champion has been from the Big Ten and not from the SEC. And listen, in the past, it was just which team was the best SEC team, and they were probably going to win the national championship. The time where you had Florida win, you had Alabama, and then you had Auburn, and then you even had LSU sneak in there that one year. Yeah, LSU sneak in there that one year with like one of the greatest, if not the greatest, college football team ever.
Georgia back to back.
Georgia. So you had all those teams go through. Well, now you've had Big Ten teams the last 2 years. So, Blake, let's weigh in on this debate, the SEC versus the Big Ten. Which conference is stronger? I've got my opinion, but I want to hear yours first, Blake.
No, I still think the Southeastern Conference is the best. I mean, it just means more. I think it's definitely closer, but I think the thing is you could make the argument that the 5 best teams of the Big Ten are better than the 5 best teams in the SEC because,
Okay.
you think about Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. But here's the thing:
Yeah,
Michigan
yeah.
wins the title, but I don't view Michigan there, right? Well, do you think that Oklahoma's a top 5 team in the SEC? I don't at the moment. I guess they could end up being one, but they just beat Michigan. That's probably one of the 5 best in the Big Ten. I think there's more depth.
Yeah.
I think the middle of you can make okay. Well, the bad SEC. Well, okay, fine. You want to argue about the worst teams in the conference? Then be my guest. I guess if that's your argument, we just don't think alike. But I think that the top, you could make the case that Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State is better than Georgia, LSU, Texas. Yeah, you can make that case. But the middle of the pack, I mean, if Ole Miss and Tennessee are your middle of the pack, they're better than the Big Ten middle of the pack. So I think as a whole, the conference is better. But you can make the case the Big Ten best teams are better.
That's the exact way that I think about it. But I also think that the worst teams in the SEC are definitely better than the worst teams in the Big Ten.
Take Kentucky
Um,
and Vanderbilt, right? Or Kentucky
and
or Vanderbilt. I
Mississippi
was going to say
State.
Missouri, but not Missouri anymore. Sorry, that was a
Yeah.
misspeak. But yeah, you take a Kentucky and a Vanderbilt, and I'm taking that. I'm taking them over the slop of the Big Ten.
That's what I'm saying. So, and then another thing too about the SEC is that sometimes you have I feel like people judge the SEC based on what they do to each other sometimes. Where during the season they beat each other. And so like you take Ole Miss last year, they go 9-3 and they lose 3 SEC games. Well, that doesn't tell me that look, Ole Miss is only 9-3. The SEC's not that good. That's not a knock on the SEC. They lost to SEC teams. I think that if the SEC keeps beating their best teams and they come out scathed because of their own conference, I think that that's the sign of a strong conference. Whereas in the Big Ten, their top teams rule in school. I
No,
don't.
they don't get meet. They don't get beat by the middle of the pack very often in the Big Ten. The Oregon, Ohio
Not at
States,
all.
Penn States do not lose to Iowa very often.
No, no, they don't. That to me, that's the sign of a good conference. Is when all of a sudden the best team's losing to a middle of the pack team, and I view that as being a sign of a strong conference. Of course, then there's the argument like, hey, you got to watch the playoff, and if it ends up being no SEC teams in there, that's tough. That's a tough look for the SEC. And, that's an argument that can be made that your best teams might be better right now. Ohio State looks like the best team in the country right now. Oregon was very good last year, and they're good this year too, but Oregon was pretty dominant last year up until they lost to Ohio State, which was another Big Ten team. And I think the Big Ten got really strong when they pulled Oregon in because that was never even close to being a Big Ten team until last year.
Yeah, I mean, it would help if USC would come along for the Big Ten. I mean, that
Yeah,
would really help. I mean, if USC and Michigan could both be, top 15 teams, all of a sudden we may have a different argument. But I don't see either one of those teams being top 15 right now. So that's kind of the problem that I have is that the Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, but then there's a major drop off.
yeah. And then with Penn State's now starting to get more major wins because Penn State's been known to run the table until they play the best teams. But this past year, or last year, they were able to, make it a decent way in the playoff. Still have a tough time knocking off the Ohio States of the world.
Yeah, but who was beating Ohio State last year outside of Michigan? Like,
Yeah,
I
Michigan and
know they
Oregon.
lost. I know that I know they lost 2 games last year. But the point being is, Ohio State by the end of last year, I think we all sat and agreed the right team won.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the team that the team that unloaded the truck of cash got it done too. Ohio State
And they're
got
the best team, and they're the best team this year too. I mean,
yeah, they
they're
look
I
pretty
think
good.
they're the best team again.
Yeah, I think so as well. And see that listen, and that goes right back to the Arch Manning conversation. Because man, his first game as a starter on the team had to be against Ohio State, and then
Oh,
I think that the conversation around him is kind of tough because on one side you have the hype train is just insane.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Acting like he's going to be a Heisman in his first year starting. come on, like that'd be remarkable if he did that, you know. But then he goes in and has a bad game against the best team in the country on the road, and they lose 14-7. They still don't even lose by that much. I know that he struggled badly, but they don't even lose by that much. And then now he's terrible. He's trash. It's like at some point you got to have a more nuanced discussion, a little bit like there's a middle ground here. I mean, he's a good quarterback, I think, but he's just not a Heisman.
Yeah. No, he's not a Heisman at the moment. Maybe he comes back next year and he is a Heisman. But
Maybe.
at the moment, he's a really good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. He's one of the top 15 to 20 quarterbacks in college football. Yeah, absolutely. But again, it's not his fault that the hype train is what it is. And when you're a Mississippi fan and you're from Mississippi and the Mannings mean a lot to the state of Mississippi, him not going to maybe an Ole Miss, maybe people are just judging him a little bit different in the state.
Yeah. No, well, hey, there's that. So now we're going to dissect some of these big games. So we got Georgia and Tennessee. All right, this is going to be at Neyland Stadium. This is always a good game. Georgia and Tennessee is always a great one. Listen, we don't know a whole lot about these two teams yet. We know that they're probably both going to be good. I have Georgia winning this game. They're going on the road to Tennessee. It's going to be tough environment there in Knoxville. I got Georgia winning this game, but I can never be too sure.
I actually think Tennessee's going to win this game. I've been really impressed with Tennessee early in this season. They played my Syracuse team, and while my Syracuse team is not anything special by any means, I mean 6-6, 7-5 maybe. I was really impressed with how they played. I was impressed by their quarterback that filled in for Nico, or not filled in for Nico, swapped with Nico. I think Tennessee's going to win this game, which is kind of funny because then that probably means that Tennessee's going to be 4-0 against Mississippi State 4-0, and could College Game Day be going to Starkville?
Oh, well.
Just a thought.
Yeah,
could College Game Day go to Starkville if Tennessee beats Georgia?
That would be interesting. So I know that College Game Day's only gone to Mississippi State one time, and that was in 2014 for that.
Well, let me explain this. Mississippi State wins their next two games. They're ranked 23. Tennessee beats Georgia. They're ranked in the top 10 at Mississippi State. A ranked Mississippi State team, especially after the environment and the fun that they had against Arizona State and the national game that they got to play. I think it's there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And as much as I love the Bulldogs, I don't know. Doing a College Game Day for a game that might be a blowout in Tennessee's direction. Because here's the thing. Mississippi State did well against Arizona State. I don't think they proved themselves to be a team that can compete with a Tennessee team if they beat Georgia. That now they have not proved that yet. So that would be an interesting choice to me for a College Game Day. If I was College Game Day, I'd be like, I don't know. I'd like to see, there's another chance to go to Starkville this year if Mississippi State keeps winning, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
For sure. But we'll see. You got Tennessee. I got Georgia. Listen, I'm picking Georgia, but I don't know. I'll be looking forward to watching that one, though. We got USF and Miami. Now we're getting out of the SEC. Listen, that's kind of interesting to me, man. So Miami's top 5. Listen, they had an incredible game. USF knocked off Florida. I'm not really on the USF hype train. I don't think that that's a sign that they're going to be some great team, phenomenal team, but they are a solid team. They're always a solid football program. I think Miami's got this one. You might not even care.
Yeah,
I think I could tell by the look on your face that you didn't really care.
No, I think Miami's going to win by 2 touchdowns. USF would have had a better shot had they not beat Florida.
Oh, really?
There's no sneaking up now. There's no sneaking up. There's not a Miami player that's taking them lightly this week, right? I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah. I can't imagine a Miami player going, "Oh, we have little poor USF coming in. We're just better than them. We beat them in the recruits that are Miami. We beat them in high school. We'll beat them in college. All that kind of stuff." After they beat Florida, Miami's locked in. Miami is locked in for this game. I think they win this by over 10.
Yeah. Now I got Miami as well. So then we got Texas A&M and Notre Dame. This is actually a really big one because the thing is Texas A&M, we don't know how they're going to be this year. We haven't, we don't know for sure. Notre Dame has a loss on their record already, and this is a must win for Notre Dame. It's a must win. They're
Must
at
win.
home again.
Must win.
Yeah, and being an independent team, you don't get to be in a conference. Like, let's say Notre Dame was in the Big Ten. Well, they would have a chance to maybe work their way into a Big Ten championship, and they might be able to sneak into the playoff. You can't lose another game this year and make the playoff. Last year, they lost to Northern Illinois, but they won every other game. And so they made the playoff. And they made as a ranked number 7. So I think Notre Dame, I think this is a must win, and I think Notre Dame's going to pull it off.
I think they have one more loss they can play with, especially when you're Notre Dame
Really?
and you're the brand that they
Okay.
are. Yeah, I think when you're,
Yeah,
the
the
brand,
brand is there.
and look, the brand is there, and I think also kudos to Notre Dame for not playing an easy schedule, even though you're an independent. I mean, they're playing Texas A&M. They played at Miami. I mean, they're playing for real. I mean, you can't make the
Yep.
argument, oh, Notre Dame doesn't have a tough schedule. They're not playing in a conference. Well, hold on. Their first 2 games are against ranked teams. So what's your
Yeah.
problem? Right? Like, and then they're going to play USC as well because they always play them at the end of the year. I mean, like, Notre Dame has a real schedule. I mean, I know they play a lot of ACC teams. They kind of affiliated with the ACC. I think Notre Dame wins this game because they have to win this game, and they come off a bye week. So I think Notre Dame wins.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I have as well. All right, then we got Florida and LSU. And I think this is a dangerous game for LSU. I think it's dangerous because the thing is, Florida's coming off of a loss. I think they're going to be locked in. I think they're going to be focused. However, I think LSU's going to win the game. I think it's going to be closer than maybe expected, especially now that Florida's expectations have plummeted. And now the coach is like, he's on the hot seat. He's on a piping hot seat, and makes Florida probably a little bit regretful about firing Dan Mullen that quick, because I mean it hasn't been any good since. However, back to focusing on the game, I think LSU's going to win the game, but I think Florida's going to give them a good challenge.
I'm torn here.
Yeah,
I really want to take Florida. I really do.
it's possible.
You know what? I'll do it. I think Florida's going to win this game somehow.
Wow.
Billy Napier last year was on the hot seat until he won games when he was, about to be fired, and then he saved his job again. Billy Napier, for some weird reason, when it comes down to it, is able to win a game when he's on the hot seat and it's about there. And DJ Lagway plays a lot better this week. I think Florida's going to somehow win this game. I'm feeling it in my soul right now.
Yeah, some of those head coaching jobs in college football are very. Listen, they're tough jobs to have because the thing is that you can be wildly successful and be known as one of the best college football coaches, or you could just always be watching your back and watching your job get taken almost.
See this 0?
Yeah.
That's how many coaches were fired last year in the SEC.
Wow. Really? Oh wow. I guess
There was not one coaching change in the SEC last year. All the coaches that were there last year are here this year.
Oh wow. That's probably pretty rare, I would think.
My point being is that there's going to be a turnover this year. You're right, because if you go from 0 one year, it tends to even out the next year. Billy Napier needs to win this game. He needs to and that's so tough. Imagine saying to your team, "We have to beat a top 5 team, or else." That's a tough
On the
spot
road.
to be in.
On the road in Death Valley.
Yeah.
So you got Florida, I got LSU, so that should be interesting. Vanderbilt in South Carolina. South Carolina, heavy favorites, and it's at South Carolina. Vanderbilt has done more surprising things. They beat Alabama last year. Of course, that was a home game for them, but Alabama was very good last year. South Carolina, I got South Carolina holding strong and winning this game. I know they're favorites to win. But I think Vanderbilt might give them a little challenge. Vanderbilt's football is at a high point for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be a Vandy fan right now. It's exciting. You feel like you can play in any given game. But I will take South Carolina. I think South Carolina is on a mission this year. I agree with a lot of the fan hype.
Yeah, so South Carolina favorites, and we both have them to win. Wisconsin and Alabama. Another game we're talking about a must-win. And for Alabama, it sure is a must-win because Alabama definitely has another loss on the schedule in the SEC because they haven't even played an SEC game yet. And, kudos to them for playing a challenging schedule as well. They might have not known that Florida State was as challenging as that was going to be, if we're just being honest, this year. But listen, they got beat by Florida State. I think they're going to beat Wisconsin, though. They're at home, and this is a part of that Big Ten that I don't think is just incredibly strong. But Wisconsin would be competitive, I think. But Alabama, I think, is going to win by a lot.
Well, Wisconsin hasn't been good. I'm taking Alabama, and like you said, this is a must win, a must win. You can't have two losses before you even come into your 8 conference games. There's just no way Alabama can't lose this game. Like they just can't. I mean, if they do, sure. I mean, I guess it's possible, but they can't lose this game. They cannot. Must win at its highest order.
Yeah. So then we got Clemson and Georgia Tech. Clemson has been highly questionable as of late. Highly questionable. They lose to LSU by a little bit, and there's real, as at home, they didn't like the loss at all. But there's no major concern. That's a big-time team in LSU. Everybody expects them to be really good this year. But then they're down 16-0 to Troy for a while. And then they're able to come back and win 27-16, so they handle business. But that's at home against Troy, and it makes you wonder what's going on there. So now they play on the road against Georgia Tech in an ACC game, their first ACC game. Now you gotta tighten up here. But I got Clemson.
To a fault. Yeah, to a fault. I am rolling with Clemson this year. I still think Clemson's a title contender. Yes,
really?
I've said it. I'm gonna die on this. I'm gonna die on this hill for some reason. I don't even feel good about it, but I'm going to stay with what I believe in. I have nothing to back up with what I'm saying other than my sheer, undeniable faith in something that I have no evidence for. But I'm going to take Clemson this week because I still believe in them and I still love Klubnik.
Yeah. Look, they're 1-1 and they lost to LSU. I mean, it's not the end of the world at all. And teams will have slow starts in games, even to smaller schools and everything like that. So they definitely have a legitimate shot, but they need to show something in this game. I think Clemson's going to win as well. So I'm not questioning that they're going to win that game against Georgia Tech. But folks, listen, that'll wrap up our Wednesday show. And folks, we're going to try to start doing this now Wednesdays. We're going to dive into some college football. I know that you guys are interested in hearing our takes on college football, and we're excited about watching it. Blake, man, listen, we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking high school football here in the state of Mississippi, week 3, and we got some big ones.
Absolutely. I'll see you there.
For sure. Folks, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, to also share it with anyone who's interested in Mississippi high school sports as well as college football across the nation. Share the Magnolia Shine podcast. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We out.